Hey everybody, so as you may well know, Insta360 sent me one of their Insta360 ONE X 360 cameras to do a review on and try out, and that is what I've been doing over the past couple of weeks. I've been trying this out in lots of different situations and trying out lots of different things that this camera can do, and you will have seen this in videos that I've recently uploaded. The one thing I'm going to say straight off the bat is, and I've come to realise this camera can be many things to many people. I cannot review every single aspect or function or way that this could be used in one video. It would just be too long and I wouldn't be able to spend enough time on the one thing to give you a decent answer. So I am going to keep to the core of what I do, which is motor vlogging and just generally making videos, and explain to you how I found it useful, the things I've learned about it and the things that have changed in my opinion about 360 cameras, because I wasn't the biggest fan in the past. I'm also going to go through the menus and things on the camera, talk about some of the accessories that you get, some things I'd like to see changed, pros and cons, and just a bit of everything. But to start with, I thought let's talk about what is a 360 camera and what is it for. Okay, so if you don't know, a 360 camera is a little camera module which actually has two sensors on it, front and back. These are very, very wide angle, and then what the software within the camera will do is take those two sort of 180 degree half spheres, as it were, and then it merges them together and it stitches the seam line between the two pieces of video together, and depending on where that lies in the camera, depending if it's far away or close, it can be completely hidden or it can be seen. But obviously those stitch lines are going to exist in anything pointing directly out from the camera in that way, all the way around, because that's the way the camera lenses aren't facing, that's where the footage will have to be stitched together. It does also mean that from the bottom of the camera it can't see anything, obviously because it's being blocked, but out the top it's completely open. Now in the past I thought 360 cameras, that's a cool little gadget, but didn't see any way that I could apply that to what I do, because as a video creator I think it's very important to make sure that every moment of your video has been selected. This is how I want to show you the video, this is what I want you to see. It's part of the art of editing and making a video that people enjoy watching, is choosing what they do and, well, not necessarily don't see, but choosing what they see and how they see it. If you film one of these and actually upload it as a 360 video, you would have seen that me and Reno went for a walk on the beach and we did that, and it was, for that use, was fantastic. It was very interesting to do it that way. But there is no direction, there is no, calling a shot. It's down to the person to move the stick around, and I think for that reason I was like, well, I'm not really into that, I don't see why I'd be interested in a 360 camera. And this is one of the things that's really sort of been brought to my attention, is I was kind of wrong about 360 cameras. That's not their big benefit. That is a party piece. That is not what they're brilliant at. What the benefit of this has been is I can put the camera on the bike in front of me, and I can then go into the software and say, okay, I want that shot, which is just the bit facing me, like this. Then I can export that out as a separate video line, which I'll then put into my editor like you would with a normal secondary camera. So where's the great benefit? Well, with the 360 camera, you can choose to have it ultra wide, you can choose to have it tight, you can choose to export one video line of it facing you and one video line of it facing forward. You can have one video line of it facing sideways. You can, from positioning the camera in one place, you can get all of the angles in that 360 degree bubble, which you can export as a 360 video, or you can choose a portion of that video and use that as a locked off shot in whatever you're creating. Obviously, if the camera hasn't got very high specs, then when you crop down to that size, you're going to have not a very clear or high resolution picture. This is 5.7K, and I know some people might be like, wow, that's really high quality. Don't see 5.7K as compared to normal flat 4K. It's 5.7K all the way around. When I've been recording, I've actually only been recording in 4K because I want 60 FPS, 60 frames per second. And when you do that and you take that section out, you're not getting a 4K picture, you're getting a section of a 4K picture, but it works out being 1080p 60 FPS. It looks sharp and clear and the colours are great. It's a perfectly good shot to have as a secondary camera. But as I say, you have the added benefit that you can choose multiple angles from that, and you can pan and twist to as much as your heart is content in the software. We'll get to that. So that's the first thing to say, is don't see a 360 camera as a camera which is for taking 360 videos that you can control with a joystick and look around, or on your phone swiping around. Yes, that is an option, but it's not what I think the most powerful thing about these cameras is. And to boot, it stabilises the footage great. So as I say, with like on the bike shots, the horizon seems to stay still, but the bike is twisting around under me, and you really get a feel for the lean in the way that I'm riding the bike, which I really enjoy. The wider the angle gets, obviously the more distorted the sides can seem, and I think for some people that can make it look a bit weird, but the more you crop it in, once you get it to a certain point, as you're clicking through the zooms on the software, you'll find a point that it suddenly just sort of clicks and it just looks like a normal piece of footage off a normal action camera. This is not waterproof because it has an open SD socket slot on the bottom of the camera, and also if you notice, the two most protruding things on this camera are the lenses. So if you put this down on a table, it's always going to rest on a lens. If it falls on the floor, it's going to hit its lenses, and that is going to ruin the camera. They do make hard cases for it, but that is not included in the motorcycle bundle or in the actual box when you buy the camera, and I think that is an oversight. I think it's important to at least offer a basic waterproof case with this camera, just because you should. If it's not waterproof, it's going to need some of that protection. This is essential, that if you take this camera with you and you want it just to keep it in your pocket, don't take just the camera, keep it in this little neoprene, little lanyarded case, and it means it keeps it protected and it's at hand and it's very handy. Okay, so a slightly closer look. You can see camera's here, same on the other side. This is blank. There's just an indication light there, microphone hole here. There is a microphone hole down here, another indication light, your two buttons, your screen, and obviously that camera as well. So let's just turn this on. Now it took me a bit of time to remember which button I have to press to do what, because you only got two buttons to do absolutely everything. So when it turns on, you see it's in, this means stills mode, basically, this camera symbol. What is slightly annoying about this camera is that when you turn it off, if it's in video mode, when you turn it back on, it doesn't always stay in video mode. It seems it can very easily jump back to this, so you need to make sure that it's set up properly each time you start using the camera for what you need, and also it jumps to standby very quickly if you're not doing anything with it. So let's just get that back. Okay, so the information being displayed here is we've got Wi-Fi, here's our battery indicator, here is our Bluetooth signal, how many images we can fit on the SD card, what quality those images are being taken in, and this is just the symbol to indicate we're taking stills. So if we then change to the next mode, this is your camera mode. It's now displaying that I've got 9 minutes worth of video. It's being filmed in 5.7K, 25 frames a second. We can see we're in video mode there. The next button takes you to the settings. So let's look into the settings themselves. Okay, so we're doing the camera, the stills one, as you can see, so we've got that signal up here. Oh, by the way, if you see some flickering, that's to do with my camera's frame rate. I've tried adjusting it and I'm still getting a bit of flickering, but no, to my eye, there is no flickering. Anyway, so we go down to change the things in the menu. So we've got standard, which is obviously taking a standard image. You've got HDR, which is hyperdynamic range, which just basically means it'll take a picture overexposed and underexposed and join them together to give you a more even tone. Interval is the equivalent of like, kind of like time lapse, but it's just going to take a picture however regular intervals when you want. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 120 seconds. So you've got from 3 to 120 seconds it will take a picture. So you could do, if you stitch those together, you then get like a time lapse, but in images. It also has a RAW mode, which basically gives you more controllability in editing the photo afterwards, so that's quite good, and then done. So from the settings again, you press the button, then you press the button again, which takes you into your video settings, and here we've got standard video mode, and this is where we adjust the quality and the frame rate. Okay, I'm just going to quickly run through the quality settings. 4K 30 FPS, 4K 50 FPS, then we've got 3K 100 FPS, 5.7K 25 frames per second, 5.7K 24 frames a second, and 5.7K 30 frames a second. Now, if you are walking around and you're showing scenery and stuff like that and nothing's moving particularly quickly, I will use 5.7K 30 frames a second because that will give me the best looking video quality for me walking around, and 30 FPS is perfectly fine for that. If I'm on the bike, I want a minimum of 60, and that means, well, I only get 50 actually, but 4K 50 FPS is what I use when I'm recording and I'm then choosing a locked off shot. And I've found that to be the best setting for the locked off shots that I make, but as I say, remember that because it's not 4K in the locked off shot, it's only about HD, but all the way around it's 4K. Sounds slightly complicated, but once you get your head around the idea, it's not too bad. bullet time is basically where you swing the camera around your head. I have tried this. I will try and find a piece of footage to show you. They supply a string to do this with, as you will have seen in my unboxing video, but they also do make a handle which can keep the camera in one orientation, so you won't have the problem with it spinning and the stitch lines moving around. Is it a gimmick? Kind of, because yeah, okay, wherever you do it, you're going to get an interesting looking shot, but you're always going to have your arm in the air spinning this thing about. So it's an interesting addition, but not a major selling point in my opinion. ISO, for that you can change the ISO. Time lapse, again, a bit like interval timer, but as a video, it's going to take a shot at intervals of 1, 2, 5, 10, 30, 60, 120, I guess that's it, yeah. And 0.5 seconds. So, you know, you can make those hyperlapse type things where everything seems to be moving really quickly, or if you're walking, you can seem like you're going very quickly. If you want to play with these things, you know what they are. ISO settings, shutter. If you're doing video and it's quite dark, you want to put that really onto the faster setting. And there is also an auto. Now, I haven't really played with this, and I probably should have done, because in the 360 video that I did where we went to the beach, the bit under the trees where it was dark and it looked a bit fuzzy, it would have been sharper if you put that into faster mode. Log, honestly, don't know, not looked into it. Then the next one is just to do with Wi-Fi, and the next one is your general about. You can turn on the LEDs, turn on the beep sounds. You can choose whether the USB is in an Apple or an Android mode. Anti-flicker, format the card, that's the important one, because you need to make sure you get the card formatted. Restore, gyro calibration, I haven't had to do that out of the box. And I will say one thing about this camera, which has been massively impressive, is there has been no glitches, no crashing, nothing. The firmware on this is solid as hell, and some other camera companies should take a note out of their book. This is a solid build on the software. I should also mention here, this camera connects to Insta360's app and gives you ability to have a remote view, change settings, get access to more settings, and you can even edit videos on your phone. One of the things that would have been nice to see in the menu was an EV shift for the exposure. The reason I'd like to see this is because I've noticed with the app, yep, you can go in and you can select the things that you want, but you can then start the recording with the app. It seems on my phone at least, when I turn the phone off, the recording stops. So whereas what would be nice to have it on the bike, check the settings on my phone, okay, start recording, close my phone, and it would continue recording, it turns itself off. And I don't know if those EV settings that I've put in are in place when I record, but using the button on the front of the box itself. So there's something that's worth noting. I will also say with the app, there is a huge amount more to what the app can do, but I haven't played with it too much because I'm using this camera as I would like to use it, and I don't like having to get my phone out and fiddle with an app every time I use it. If I have to do that, it becomes annoying. And there is some DJI equipment that I have that for that reason I find very annoying to use, because I always have to get my phone out and play with the app, and then it needs an update and yada yada yada. I like being able to just use the camera. Sure, if I need to set it up beforehand, fine, but I want it to be able to be taken out, start recording, and not have to faff for that too much. Now I want to talk a little bit about accessories. If you want to see a full unboxing of this camera, the motorcycle kit, the double battery charger, a spare battery, the selfie sticks, then I have a video already existing on that, which you can see on my channel and will also be linked at the end of the video. The reason I haven't done that in this video is because this video is going to be long enough as it is, let alone having that entire unboxing, because they do give you so much stuff. But there is a little criticism that I would like to give on some of the accessories. Okay, so this will kind of cover all the things that I want to talk about. In the box, they do give you lots of little bits and pieces. You know, like these are GoPro style, so you can get these elsewhere. You know, the mounting plates, the attaching threaded screws, these adapters, and the mounting plates themselves. They give you lots of these in the packet, but they're all the same. Sure, multiple ones of these is very handy, but they only give you 2 sticky pads. That's also not very good. If you do an entire kit of its own, make sure you have plenty of these and plenty of those in there, because you can stick these all over your bike and then move the camera around that way to get different angles. Normally these are set and leave them on the bike and reuse it as you need. Yes, you can buy these elsewhere, but it would have been nice to see in the kit, as they gave you so many things more adhesive things. As for the other parts, again, it's very repetitive. They give you loads of these adapters, but none of them are any different. They're all one type. It would be nice if they could include, because the GoPro is almost like a Meccano for mounting cameras, it would be nice to see if they put a couple of, 90-degree twist adapters, or something with a pivot on it, or something that will give you a 90-degree from this, rather than loads and loads and loads of the exact same thing. It's great to have loads of the same thing, because it means you've always got one. If one breaks, you lose one, you've always got another one to grab, but I would like to see more diversity in that box. But otherwise, these are okay. Although I will say, I have found that some of them, they're not entirely stable in their holders. They rock backwards and forwards a little bit, and that just gets emphasised down the line, and that's where I want to talk about this bar mount. So this is the Insta360 bar mount, and I love bar mounts. I think they are great for just clamping a bike, clamping a camera, not just the bars, all sorts of places, because you've got these rubber inserts of different sizes that go inside, and you can just pretty much clamp it down anywhere. And this has also got a rotating top. Now, the problem is, mounts need to be as solid as they possibly can be. But when you add on the bit of slop you get in this neck, now it's not too bad on this sort of angle, but it is pretty bad on this sort of an angle when it's in certain places. There is a bit of slop in this as well. So when you've got the bit of slop here, the bit of slop there, then the extension of the camera being off the top, it actually translates into quite a lot of movement. So what I would like to see is a different way of doing this 360 spin. It is very useful, but as I say, in most places it's okay, but there's a couple of orientations I've found that it just is a bit wobbly. And the added wobble here is just making that worse. So it is a good bar mount, I do like it, but I'd like to see it a little tighter, a little bit more rigid. Here's a little bit that I used in a setup of the other sort of accessories you get. You see you've got the same plates, the same adapters, the same pins, but there's this aluminium, I think it's aluminium, extension arm. Very handy, as I say. But the motorcycle pack does have a redeeming feature, and it is this chest strap. This thing is really good for getting a shot from the middle of your chest, so you really look like you're the person viewing the video is riding the bike, or at least it's from a more interesting perspective. Only criticism on this is I'd like to see this stuff a little less stretchy and a little bit more resilient, because it doesn't seem to matter quite how much you tighten this thing down, it's still got a little bit of wobble and a little bit of shift. Maybe even some rubber. I might do this myself, put some rubber on here so it doesn't twist on your leathers, because it has a habit of doing that, because this is nice and soft and this is shiny, and on your leathers obviously it can slip. But for the motorcycle bundle, the best things I think are the chest mount and just getting a load of these, but I would have, as I say, would have liked to have seen more options for more mounting options, different arms and stuff like that. But they are readily available, so okay. But if you've given us so many of them, well, give us half of something else rather than tons of the exact same one. The other accessory that I think is absolutely great, and sorry this is so big, but you've seen this in the unboxing, this is like that wrestler's belt, like a weightlifting belt that you put on around you. It's got adjustable Velcro straps, and it gives you a movable mounting point to attach the Insta selfie stick, or the camera itself directly if you so wish. I can't offer any improvements on this. It's been designed well, it's nicely made, it held in place. I think it's as good as it can be, really, unless you go with a completely different style of attaching it to you, maybe a 3-point system or something. But as a single belt system, this wasn't too bad. An accessory which I say is kind of an absolute must is the Insta360 selfie stick, or invisible selfie stick. It's really quite incredible how it removes this. So this is it in its shortened form, and the way that these work is you basically untwist it to unlock it. They just sort of wedge together the sections. I'll show you on my other one. You've got all these different sections. It goes to 120 centimeters long, and as you see, it's all free moving, but when you give it a twist in one direction, these cammed surfaces lock together, and it's a very solid fit. And then to collapse it, just twist it all the other way and put it together, and that can fit in your bag very easily. As I say, you can use this on the waist mounts, so you can put this up so you can have the camera in the air, so you have that sort of off-bike look. But the selfie stick I think is very important, and it unlocks many features of this camera. Sure, you don't necessarily need it, but I think if you're going to have the camera, get one of these. They're very good. I like them. Again, the build quality of this is also very, very nice. Metal construction, very sturdy and strong. Nice rubbery grip on it. Impressed. You might then say, oh, okay, 5.7K, 30 FPS. That's going to make some pretty large files, isn't it? I'm not going to get too much on a memory card. Well, yes and or no. If you work with cameras a lot, I don't think it will surprise you the size of the files that come out of this. But they may be a surprise if you don't use cameras. But to give you an idea of both battery life and memory usage, I find that one 32 gig card gets used up in about 45 minutes, and it so happens that a battery lasts about 45 minutes. So, in my experience at the temperatures and with the age of the batteries that I have, so I would say just remember that for every 45 minutes of video you want to record, you're going to need one 32 gig card and one battery. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the Insta360 software itself. This is on a Windows 10 PC. You can do a lot of this on the app that you can get on your mobile, and I know people who do that, but for me my normal workflow is to work on PCs, so I really will be sticking to doing it this way. Okay, I'm just going to drag a single file from the camera in. You can drop in multiples if you wish. And the first thing you'll notice when this opens up is that this is how the camera actually records. As you can see here, we've got the bikes. This is 360 degrees. Other options in here, you can see you've got used flow state stabilization. That's to do with keeping the video stable and actually works very, very well. I'm impressed by it. Lock direction is if you want it to always stay in one orientation, you can choose that. As you can see at the moment, it's kind of, well, you'll see in another window I'll show you. This isn't how you would edit the video. This is how it would be exported if it was going to go to a website to convert it into a 360 video, or if you're going to import it into a piece of software that you can then manipulate it into a movable 360 video. Timeline and stuff's down here. I'm not going to get too in depth on this. I will also mention, depending on what case you have different options here for the aberrations that case will cause to the footage. You have some stitching calibration here, and you can also choose to introduce a logo which will appear below where the camera is, where it can't see. Now, in this perspective, it kind of looks a little bit weird because it's being all stretched out. Let's go into FreeCam. So this is where the magic of the 360 camera is. We can zoom all the way out, and we can export like this. You can see here's our little logo where the camera sits. Get a little bit closer. So you can just watermark your videos like that. See, we can make it bigger or smaller, whatever you want. But as you can see, this is the mount that I'd attached it to. And you can only see sort of half it. It's kind of weird the way it stitches together. But no, there is a seam line going through here, and although it's obvious here, it's not obvious over here. Then let's zoom out a little bit more. So this is this sort of tiny planet setting. Okay, let's get into actually like how I'd use it. So as you see, the closer you get, the more of a normal shot it seems. I was using this to record facing me. So if we go all the way out, as you can see, we've lost the edges. If we come in enough to keep the edges, there's lots of bowing because of the fish-eyedness of it. And there's some wobble going on over here. Oh no, that's not entirely straight. But as you zoom in, you get more of a normal looking shot. And then what you can do here is use lock direction. Oh, sorry, I need to lock direction, then spin it around. And now, this is how you will have seen it. So all I'd have to do now is say, well, okay, I want it to look like that. So I'd go to the beginning, and I'd hit keyframe, and then I would go to the end of the piece of footage and smack keyframe again, the same as the first one, and then I know that it's locked off anywhere in the same position throughout that video. I then just have to go to File, Export, and it'll export as whatever quality you'd like it to be. Let's just have a quick look here. Export. Yeah, save changes, whatever. So we can choose our resolutions here. We can choose the bits per second, megabits per second. You can choose your encoding format. You can change the name, where it goes, etc, etc, and it also gives you an estimation of the size of the file. So if you want much lower bit rate, it's basically the same width picture but less detail within it. It's a much smaller file. If you increase that to maximum, you know, we're talking that's a hefty old file. What you choose to do is up to you. Experiment, play with it. I've been exporting around 100 to give a bit sort of a mix of file size versus quality. So as I say, this gives you the option. I could export this view, I could choose to export it on this view, I could choose, oh, it's just moved itself back because of the way the keyframes are. I could export this view. You know, I can have as many different views out of this one piece of footage as I want, including an all the way around 360 video. You can also program in pans and zooms and different things that you want. So, like in the videos I've shown you, it's sort of where it pans around and moves around. Let's go back to the beginning of the video there. You can really play with the footage and be as creative as you want. But if you, like me, want to just use this, as I say, as a secondary camera to give me locked off shots, it's fantastically fast to do, because you just choose your selection, smack the keyframe, go to the end, smack the keyframe, export that, takes a couple of minutes, and then if you want, then, you know, want a forward facing as well from the exact same video, do the same thing, and there you go, you've got 2 videos out of 1. I will just quickly show you what happens if you don't lock the direction. I'll turn the flow stabilisation off. Well, there you go. The flow one, the camera's obviously a little bit tilted, but that's correcting that. And that's also what's helping keep the horizon level. But we'll leave the stitching, sorry, we'll leave the lock direction off. And as you can see, it's kind of moving around me. Come on, pull out. You can also see the stitch line here and here. It's not too obvious, but it depends on which way you've got the camera facing as to where that's going to be. And also how zoomed you are as to how noticeable it is going to be. But you can see if you don't lock the direction, it moves and swings, which could be something you could use to your advantage to make an interesting looking video, but if you want it to be a lock shot, well, you just want it to be like that. You can also trim the video from this. So it's a pretty easy to use piece of software. There isn't 1,000,001 options on it. If you export with this, you can then go into your other types of 360 editing software and do the things you want to do there, and even have it stitch it rather than this software stitch the footage for you. Okay, well there's kind of a brief overview of the accessories, the camera, the software, and you've seen the results of what I've been using this camera for in videos, and I will continue to do so because I do actually really like this camera and I think it's got some great benefits. Now I haven't gone into great details about every different part of like what you can do with this camera, because there is so much of it that each thing is quite a big subject. But thankfully there are an awful lot of videos on YouTube from people showing how to do different specific little things, tips and tricks and stuff. Even Insta360's app itself has got some information on there about, you know, videos and tutorials on how to do different effects and things that people come up with. This really is a very universal camera which a lot of people will find some very unique ways of using. Like for instance the recording yourself with the invisible selfie stick off your back so the bike looks like it's, well, it looks like you've got a hovering camera over you or a hovering camera next to you. That's a unique perspective that a normal action camera couldn't get. So to run through a few questions, is this an action camera? Well, yes, if it's in its case, but it's not quite as durable on its own. I would like to see them have a setting in this camera where you can turn one of the lenses off entirely, so you're just filming from one side and have control over the exposure itself on that one, because when you are filming, when I was filming with a chest mount, there is a crossover and exposure between the two lenses. So if it's facing my very dark chest of my black jacket and then it's very bright over here, it overexposes a bit for this side, which pushes this side's video overexposed. So it would be nice if you could have an actual action camera mode where one camera's turned off entirely and we just accept we have, say, 180-degree field of view out of one side, because the quality from it is fantastic. If you just use one camera. That is one thing I will point out, because this, as I say, is around £400 at this point in time, and a few people have been like, that's an expensive camera. Well, it is, but what are you comparing it to? Are you comparing it to an action camera like this, which has got one lens, one camera? This has got 2 fully good quality cameras and lenses built into the body. You've also got the software and everything else that goes with that, and it also does way more than this does, or a normal action camera. You know, the options of having different angles from the same piece of video, having 360 videos themselves, etc, etc. I've actually had a quick look through online against some different 360 cameras, and this comes in, I'd say, middle of the rung. I've seen some very slightly cheaper that don't look very good. I've seen some that are more expensive that don't look any better. So I think this is a gem of a little camera. I'm not being paid to say that. Yes, they did send me this for free, but I said to them I'm going to give my honest opinion on it because that's important to me. And it's important to you too, especially if you're going to go and buy one of these. So, no, it's not a camera for everyone, but it has many uses, and as a secondary camera, I think it is great. Some people have sort of suggested that this might be like something you could use for motor vlogging. Yes, as a secondary camera, not as a main camera. Well, you could. It is possible to do that, so you have the chest mount or on your helmet or whatever, but you'd need a separate device to record your voice, and then you'd have to put those together. But so unless you have the software that will allow you to edit 360 movable video, you'll only be able to use the locked off shots if you want to put it into an editing program. I don't have a working editing program at the moment, although I bought one to try and do for this review, to try and edit some 360 video. I've only been able to use the Insta360 software itself because the Sony software I have just isn't working, and it isn't working with anyone's software. It's not just what's coming out, footage is not just what's coming out of here. Where I'll be using this in the future is getting secondary shots. If I go to events or anything, it would be great to have this with me because the audio that it records, I should have mentioned this slightly earlier on, but the in-body audio, if you're walking around with it, it's actually really nice. It's good audio. It does have some wind blocking, cutting effects, but it does suffer with a bit of wind noise. But I actually made a little dead cat, little piece of fluff that went around the bottom of the camera, which, yeah, if you look down it was kind of visible, but it's next to the stitch line anyway, but it helped block a little bit more of that wind for when you're just walking around with it if you're you know, doing vlogs. As a vlogging camera on its own, if you were just someone who wanted to just do walking around style vlogs, this thing's great because it's stabilised. It's going to record everything around you, sure, but you don't have to use all of that. I'm way more impressed with this than I thought I was going to be. As I say, it's the versatility, the flexibility that's the thing that's really got me. And for that reason, that's also like, if I need to do any walking around videos like at events or anything like that, I'll be using this camera. You know, as a comparison, to have something in your pocket, a little camcorder like this is massive compared to this little thing. Sure, you might then say, oh, well, mobile phone. Well, it's still smaller than your phone, but the one thing I absolutely hate is if your phone and your camera are the same thing, because when you run out of battery using the camera, you now don't have a phone. And for that reason, that's why I don't like using mobile phones as cameras for anything. Like, oh, if you're recording over a day, if you're doing a few clips here, it's fine, but if you actually want a standalone device that you can switch the batteries out and memory cards out on, this is an option. I don't think there's any more I can add to this. There is so much out there from the community of people that uses this that, you know, it's giving tips and tricks and ideas of things you can use it for, and different bits of software. Oh, you can, they have got a plugin for Adobe Premiere, I think it is, so you can edit 360 video in that. It comes with the software, but I don't use that, so I wish I did. I hope I've covered all bases, but there is so many options to this camera, like what you could use it for, that I've just tried to keep to the core ones and answer those as well as I can. If I've left anything out, any oversights or questions you want to ask me, drop a comment below and I'll do my best to respond to those. But as I say, do keep in mind that there is a great community of people out there making videos and tutorials on how to use this camera. So a huge thanks to Insta360 for sending me the little camera. Really do appreciate that. I will be continuing to use it in the future. I think it is a great little bit of kit and it'll be interesting to experiment and try different things with it. And it'll also be interesting to see what other cameras you come up with in the future, because, as I say, this is relatively new tech 360 cameras, and to get that into this little box and work as well as it does, it's pretty impressive, and I feel quite hopeful for what might come in the future. Finally, a huge thanks to my Patreon supporters who helped me to make these videos and bring them to you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any videos, because YouTube loves to not show you my videos when they get uploaded. Also hit the like button, that really does help me. If you want to support this channel in any other way, links in the description, information at the end of the video. And if you want to see more examples of footage and videos taken with this, well, just look over my previous videos, but I will link a couple of videos at the end of the video too, using that camera. There we go. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. If you enjoyed this video and the other content on the channel, please consider following the links in the description to show your support.